In the future, you become a parent. You come home from work only to catch your teenage son or daughter reeking of marijuana odor. As soon as you catch them, you look down upon their face and notice how red their eyes are. Now, at this point, any concerned parent would ask the question, what were you up to? What were you doing? Imagine this. Your teenage son or daughter looks up to you and says, it's completely fine. It's legal. It's been proven to be harmful. 10 years down the road, they continue this pattern. 10 years down the road, they begin soliciting in street corners. Would any high-powered business, would they hire someone like that? Would they hire any healthy adult with a failed drug test? Even with prohibition of sale towards minors are still obtaining marijuana, could still obtain marijuana, just like with alcohol. So, today, I have to refute the argument made by Editorial entitled Repeal Prohibition Again, published by the New York Times. The reason why I'm arguing against the New York Times is because the editorial perpetuation of pro-marijuana myths that could be easily debunked, and the costly argument of legalization of marijuana. Essentially, what the consequences would look like if the federal government were to repeal the prohibition of marijuana. I will make 3 first claims. I'd like to debunk the argument that there are more than the majority of prison convictions inside penitentiaries today consist of only people who've been possessing marijuana versus possessing harder drugs such as cocaine and heroin, essentially prison numbers. Then I'd like to address the health issues of marijuana, or rather, the New York Times claim that marijuana is less poisonous than alcohol or tobacco, and then marijuana is essentially not very harmful, because there seems to be a lot of evidence that proves otherwise. Finally, I will discuss how the federal repeal of the prohibition of marijuana foregoes federalism and states' rights. Speaking of states, it seems now more than ever that state penitentiaries are becoming more filled with prisoners who are convicted of simple drug possessions. The pro-marijuana argument would like to hyperbolize the number of prisoners who are convicted of simple crimes such as marijuana possession. However, the ends don't seem to justify the means. According to academic research scholars Jonathan Calkins and Eric Savini of the Contemporary Drugs Problem academic journal, research has shown that 2 to 5% of prisoners are convicted of drug possession. Only 5 to 9% of all drug convictions within prisons are coming from marijuana convictions rather than harder drugs, which fall from more than 90%. That's 90% of people who are convicted of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, etc. The New York Times editorial board claims that marijuana users are less dependent than alcohol and tobacco users. Another similar argument made by the New York Times editorial board is that even small doses of marijuana are not at all harmful. See, according to Charles Stimson, the senior legal analyst of the Center for Judicial and Legal Analysis at the Heritage Foundation, confirmed a study that marijuana causes not only short-term memory loss, but also the inability or incapability of performing complex tasks. Now, alcohol, on the other hand, can have proven health benefits in small doses. Final argument made by the New York Times editorial board is that the dilemma of granting federal government power over the states' rights to decide whether the regulation of marijuana should be appropriate. The idea of the federal prohibition of marijuana is a bad thing for federalism because it doesn't allow states to decide for themselves, foregoing the 10th Amendment. According to the Tennessee Journal of Law and Policy, a conflict within state and federal government continue to pull a strain on not only decision-making but taxpayers' dollars. It'll take too much time and taxpayers' dollars. So, in a way, we shouldn't continue to forego federalism over the issue of. Here's my thesis: the decision to repeal the federal ban of marijuana will wind up to be a costly. It not only degrade the health of individuals who continue to abuse marijuana even more after it is legal, to pushing over states in their decisions to find out whether or not what marijuana legalization is best for them. There are three main points when it comes to argue the New York Times over this issue. The claim of policy, of course, for states' rights and federalism, but also the most important one, which is have to do with the health of consumers. If marijuana was legal, it will continue to become more and more abused, more health care costs would continue to rise in order to pay for marijuana addiction. The third argument is that prison numbers are greatly exaggerated from the statistics provided by the New York Times, other than providing a broader scope for more readers. So in conclusion, I don't think it would be worth it to legalize marijuana or repeal the federal prohibition of marijuana. Think of the future. Think of your children. Thank you for tuning into my argument. Please have a